And then the only issue with this, when you're running this, a lot of the stuff is GUI, so you may not have to understand the command line. But if you want the better tools that do man-in-the-middle attacks and stuff like that, or monitoring of different IPs, you really want to understand the command line, because if you utilize the command line, the commands happen a lot faster, and you don't have to worry about maybe something interrupting or messing up. And then with the strongest tool that's currently out there for ethical hacking, we'll say ethical hacking, a lot of it, 70% of it is command line driven. So there's some great tools you can run like Wireshark, but Wireshark, you're just seeing what type of traffic is going through. But if you want to inject something during that traffic, you need to understand the command line items with that. Now, there's Gentile Linux, and remember there's 400 plus distributions. So I'm going to go through a few of them. So here's Gentile Linux. And with Linux, you have two different subsets. You have a KDE interface, and then you have a GNOME interface. So this right here shows a KDE interface. And so here, as well, you can kind of see more about this particular OS. The great thing that they have, a lot of them usually have docs. And so these docs tell you how to install the OS, how to make changes to the operating system, points of contact if you're having issues. So say if you're going to do research on servers, right? You're saying, I'm doing my research on servers, maintainability, reliability on network servers. And, is a Windows machine more reliable, a Linux machine, or a particular distribution? With Linux, you can go to the document area. You can usually find specific items relating to that particular OS in depth. Well, this is kind of, these are the issues we had, server installation, how do we install it? Maybe if you're going to run in a virtual environment, you'll also provide guidance on how to do that as well. So a lot of the information you have is contained right there in that particular site, which is really good. Now you have Puppy Linux. So if you have a lot of old systems at home and you're not really doing anything with it, never get rid of any of your old computers. Old computers can always be rebuilt and re-imaged with Linux, and it can be utilized. So Puppy Linux can run on the minimal hardware, the minimal processor, and it can still run pretty fast. Because basically they cut out a lot of the graphic intensive stuff. And so basically you strictly have the GUI at its minimal state. You have a number of applications that aren't process intensive, and you can still get items done. So with Puppy Linux, you can take probably a computer that's like 7, 8 years old, run Puppy Linux, and it's going to run very fast. It's going to be very reliable. It should be minimal crashes. I have systems that are 10 years old that I have Puppy Linux running on at home. I have old Macs that I converted that I run Puppy Linux on. And then if you have a PC that you may need for your child, or you're thinking about helping at school out, you can use Puppy Linux as well. And so they have their own version of Word and Excel. We'll go through that stuff later. But like I said, you have to understand which Linux distro is best for what. That's why distro watch list is great. So if you're saying, I'm going to do research on items that are cyber related, go to distro watch list, search cyber distros, and see which actual cyber distro is great for what you want to do. Now this is my favorite one. This is DSL. See what DSL stands for, damn small Linux. Damn small Linux pretty much runs on next to nothing. Now I can run, this is a 4 gig flash drive, so I can run Ubuntu, Backtrack, a ton of OSs on here. I can have what is called a live USB. But on DSL, I can actually, I don't know if they even sell these still, but the old CD discs that are kind of like business card discs, you know what I'm talking about? You can actually run DSL on that. You can run them on pen drives. You can put this OS on next to nothing. So you can run this on a gig if you needed a gig. So DSL is great. It's great for testing. It's great for deployment if you need to deploy it somewhere and you need to have someone, you're limited to resources and stuff like that. Or if you're doing research and you're trying to say, okay, well, I want to see how many OSs I can run at any particular time in a cloud environment and see what happens if I do something with a network traffic or something like that. So you can replicate a ton of environments with DSL. Ubuntu. Now this is what I'm using here. Ubuntu is kind of my favorite. Out of all the Linux distributions, Ubuntu for me works the best. Ubuntu uses the GNOME 3 interface. They were the first to actually implement GNOME 3 in their baseline. And We'll jump to the website. Ubuntu runs pretty crisp. If you're familiar with Linux, Linux has multiple desktops. So by default, you have 4 desktops that you can workspace that you can actually work on. With Ubuntu, one of the great things that they have is they have a online area that you can actually try utilizing the operating system. So you can go through the tour, you can show yourself around, you can click on a document, and it'll show you Liberate Doc, which basically is the Microsoft Word equivalent. You can go in here, you can do your edits, you can kind of see how this item would look if you did install it on your particular OS. Then you still have a number of people who are like, okay, I don't want to put a disk in my machine, it's going to format everything, my information is going to be missing. And those who've seen Windows 8 has this really funky menu for, like, you must touch it, right? But the problem with Windows 8, when you bring up Windows 8, everything else on the side is gone. It's just a screen that pops up with different colors, and then a color like blue maybe bring up email or something like that. So an entire new screen comes up. But with the GNOME 3 interface, with the what they call a Unity lens, that's what this is, I can type something and it'll search my applications, my files and folders. Plus I have the option of using the older version, which is more like the standard, I click on the menu bar and I see all the different applications and programs via the links that are associated. And then if you're doing research, one of the other cool things is you can take this lens and you can actually have it port over to like Google Scholar. You can actually, there's code that you can put in there, have it port to Google Scholar, and you can actually search articles via right here. So you would be able to type, we'll say computing, and computing would actually pop up via that search in the Unity lens. But you have to go in there and change it yourself. So if you're interested in that, just ping me and I'll actually give you the code so you can do it. It's very similar to the Wikipedia code that's out there. If I could just pop that, give it to you, no problem. Alright, so going back here, one of the things that you'll see, they have a larger project. So this particular distribution, Ubuntu, comes out of South Africa. It was a Afrikaner that donated $10 million of his own money to get this project started. So he provided $2 million. He wanted an operating system that was going to rival Windows, that was going to be open source, and that tons of communities could actually utilize it. Because you have a number of communities, especially in Africa, that do not have the ability to have the same access as we do. So of course you pay for licensing and stuff like that. And one of the great things is there are certain countries in Africa that our computers get recycled to. For instance, Ghana has a huge computer dump. So when we think we're recycling our computers here, it just gets dumped in another country. Now a lot of those PCs can be reused. Now for those PCs to get reused, they have to have an OS that would actually work on those computers. So with the different distributions of Ubuntu, there's a limited version called Ubuntu, and then there's an LXDE desktop edition, a lightweight version of Ubuntu that can run on these older machines. So now you have an area that has a ton of old machines that are not usable, that now they can actually try to put some of these machines back into use. And then again, if you're only spending money on hardware, especially if you're buying older refurbished hardware, you can buy a lot more of it, and you can actually get it out to the masses just a lot better. Now this particular OS does a great job of serving as a desktop, as a server, as a cloud, and they offer cloud services as well at a fairly reasonable price. But it serves multiple options. One desktop, multiple options. Now, Ubuntu is pretty much one of the OSs that are covering more than one device. Now you have, of course, Android for your iPhone, but you don't have like an Android TV, right? Ubuntu has its own TV, Ubuntu has its own TV platform now. So basically you have the touchscreen ability, and then and then here what you see is the Unity lens, the little search bar of the Ubuntu TV. And then at the top you see the Ubuntu Android, which is a quad-core Android, or multi-core Android, that's being utilized as a desktop. One of the things that BlackBerry is doing they're trying to create devices that can be utilized in such a manner as well. So the goal is, in the future, what a lot of futurists are saying, which is more near term than anything, is actually having everything on your phone. So you carry your phone with you everywhere you go right now, right? You use your phone for email, paying bills, Twitter, seeing what your kids are doing on Facebook. So you have all these particular applications that are on your device. Well, why not also utilize it fully as a desktop? And so with this latest release, you can actually do that. So you dock your Ubuntu Android, and a desktop comes up on your screen. Not only with that, when you're actually on the docked Android, phone calls still come and you can still talk through your phone. So you can pretty much do everything you can do. And rather than carrying a laptop around, you just carry it on your device. Even better than that, there's tools that you can remotely disable your phone. You can track your phone because phones have GPS built in. And then, of course, you can do a remote wipe. And a remote wipe is simply, you don't have the phone with you, it's elsewhere, you have no clue where it's at. Rather than waiting for someone to go in there 3-4 times and try your passcode, you can just remotely wipe the item. All right, so this is where the fun starts. So does everybody know if they have a 64-bit or a 32-bit system yet? 64? All right. Crew's up here real quick. I'm going to have you help me pass out the 64-bit system, 4-bit disk. All right, so if you need a 64-bit disk, he is going to pass it to you.
Will that work on a Mac too?
Yes, for a Mac, if you want to do it on a Mac, you have to restart your system, and you have to hold down Control. You have to hold down C, and C will boot from your CD-ROM.
Oh. Okay.
You have 32?
No, I think I have 64.
Okay.
Right. 64.
64? Oh, yeah, that.
If I knew that we were doing this, I would have known.
We have.